Welcome to Sacred Stories Podcast, a place to explore and discuss new and exciting books of consciousness. I am your host, Reverend Patricia Caginello, and speaking with authors that have shared their wisdoms and stories through their books is one of my favorite things to do. Today we are speaking with Denise Alexander Pyle, author of the book, The Power of 10, a guide to living the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule in modern times. Denise feels truly blessed and grateful to have the opportunity to share the message that the power of 10 is the power of one and all. And we feel blessed and grateful to welcome Denise Alexander Pyle to Sacred Stories.
Thank you, Patricia. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm excited. We've been working together for a short period of time. I have a copy of your book. I had shared when we were first introduced that when I was in Interfaith Seminary, had required reading to read a book that talked about the 10 challenges or the 10 commandments. And I thought it was fascinating to really bring the relevance of the 10 commandments and you as well, the Golden Rule, into modern times. It's so necessary and needed, I believe.
Well, so do I, and I believe more so now than ever.
Yeah, it's really, I believe very much in the ancient wisdom and maybe a reinterpretation or a fresh perspective, I think can be very helpful. So share a little bit more with the audience what the Power of 10 is about.
Well, it's really about taking each of the 10 commandments and applying them in modern times beyond just the biblical interpretation. For example, if you take have no other gods before me, it's really talking about how, and the reason this commandment's number 2, all the things that take us away from being spiritual and going home to God. And that's why it's number 2. We need to not get caught up in worshiping all that glitters because it's not all gold.
So how does the Golden Rule fit in?
Well, it's sort of the overview. It's the principle of love that overrides everything else. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. And basically, if you can't remember the 10 and apply them, if you live by the 1 or the 2 in the New Testament, love the Lord with all your soul, with all your might, love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you practice that, everything will follow, because it's really about what we're here to do, to give and be in service and be in gratitude and make the world a better place. And then we become joyful and content in so doing.
So even if someone doesn't have a Christian or Jewish background or even religious background that might be familiar with the 10 Commandments, this book can still apply to them. It can still be something they could receive inspiration from.
Absolutely. I wrote it to be basically the rules for the road for for humanity in a universal way. It didn't matter whether you believe Moses got the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai or whether an extraterrestrial brought them down to an evolving human race because they were at the point where they needed to implement certain rules to continue their evolution. Doesn't matter, because they are what works. They're very simple, and every religion has their form of them.
So share your sacred story, or a piece of your sacred story that brought you to the point of wanting to write this book.
Well, it started in the late 1980s. I was asked by actually a rabbi to teach for 6 weeks a confirmation class. It was a new congregation. And he said, you're a lawyer. I've been a lawyer now 42 years, but I was, practicing then. He said, if you could talk to 15-year-olds about Judeo-ethics, in modern times, debate the abortion issue, debate capital punishment, it would be really helpful for filling the gap as we fill our roster. Well, 6 weeks became 2 years, and part of the confirmation class was actually teaching the 10 Commandments to the students. And in this case, the teacher became the student. As I was teaching the students the 10 Commandments, I relearned them and saw them differently. And I started seeing how we weren't applying them in our world, and you could ascribe everything that was wrong with our world by our non-adherence to what the 10 Commandments was about. And it took me 20 years later when I sat down at the computer and God said, okay, you're going to channel this book and put it out there because I need this message out there. And I did that in 2010, and then it took me another 7-8 years before I had the time to sit down and take a sermon and turn it into something that sounded like something people would want to read, that would be, have, paragraphs and phrases that, would attract the attention of people reading it and not just be a long, treatise.
Well, and plus people already have the 10 Commandments in the Bible and so forth, and there's been many writings about what they really mean. And so you having a fresh perspective, really bringing them into modern times, not just continuing or repeating specifically what's in ancient texts.
Well, it's really a spiritual overlay. And I actually use a little Kabbalah, which is metaphysical teaching, as sort of a reference point to each of the commandments, because if you study metaphysics, it's all one anyway.
Right, and that was actually going to be my next question. Did you share a little bit more about how the Kabbalah is woven into your book?
Well, each of the 10 commandments actually corresponds with each of the spheres on the kabbalistic tree of life. And for those who may not know, the Kabbalah is the ancient Jewish wisdom that explains the eternal laws of how spiritual energy moves through the cosmos. And it's depicted by a ladder-like tree. And as you go down from heaven to earth, it follows how the 10 commandments really go in a pattern from, source, I am the Lord your God, down to don't covet your neighbor's belongings, which is really as base as you can get in applying the commandments to our life here on earth.
It's fascinating. I'm so thrilled that you've woven the Kabbalah through with the 10 Commandments, because I don't believe that many people even make a connection, that they understand there is a connection.
And they're both called the tree of life. If in Judaism, the 10 Commandments and the Torah are referred to as the tree of life. And so obviously, there are no accidents. But there are those who say Moses actually stole Kabbalah from the Egyptians when he left Egypt. So it's really that's how ancient the Kabbalistic traditions are, because it's a metaphysical explanation of the origins of the universe and how the universe works. In other words, it's quantum physics.
So it's fascinating because even if people are not necessarily feel a resonance, let's say with the 10 Commandments, or feel that they know something about the 10 Commandments, they don't have to be religious at all. It's fascinating, even the connections you make, which are true between the different religious belief systems.
It's all basically how we get back to source, how we survive and stay in balance and choose to remain light beings instead of affixed to the earth. I kind of say it's like Dorothy being thrown out of Kansas into Oz. She's trying to find her way back home. And I think the 10 Commandments are sort of how we stay on the Yellow Brick Road till we realize that home is within ourselves. And we have the tools all along to get there.
That's a really beautiful metaphor. So, Denise, what would you like? What do you hope, other than people finding their way home? But is there something else you'd like your readers to receive or learn when they're reading The Power of 10?
Well, I think it's a message of hope in a time where we're being inundated with mixed messages, lack of truth, lack of transparency, and that we're all here to live our own journey. And if we practice the 10 Commandments, when you get down through the commandments, it's about finding joy and contentment in your own life. You can't be in your own journey if you're too busy worrying about what the next person is doing. And so, there's practical applications that make our own individual journeys more joyful.
Has writing the book and sharing the book with others, has that brought more joy into your life, and other gifts have you received from this?
Oh my God, I can't begin to tell you. I had a book signing and participated at Camp Chesterfield in Indiana, had their Spirit Fest. And I was one of the speakers, and I had in their chapel for an hour, I got to really talk about my book. And everybody there bought the book, but they all came up to me and all had different religious backgrounds. Some were more metaphysical than others, but everyone said to me they never really understood how the 10 Commandments really worked in their lives till they heard me go through them and the attributes that are with each one of them. They each have their own attributes. And that gave me more joy than anything, because I felt, yes, there is a message here and God does want me to get it out.
Yeah, so explain, because I don't know if we've been clear enough on the layout of the book. So you weave the 10 Commandments, the Golden Rule, the Kabbalah, but how is it set up? What can people expect when they receive your book?
Well, each chapter, and it's a short book. It's meant to be almost like a devotional book that sits on your nightstand with some exercises at the end of each chapter, so that you can root the principles better in your day-to-day life. But it's either a wake-up or a tune-up, depending where you are. And it goes through each of the 10 Commandments and talks about what how we're supposed to apply them and how we're not supposed to apply them, because like anything else, when you're told what to do, you're also told what not to do. So you see its opposite. And you go through, and it's like a little highway. You go from the top, I am the Lord your God, which corresponds with crown in the tree of life. And that's really about love and respect, and how we love each other, love God, and how we respect each other. Because if you're part of God and I'm part of God, then we have to recognize our boundaries with each other are both godlike. And you go through to have no other gods before me, which is actually wisdom in the tree of life. And that's really the wisdom that we're hearing in gratitude and in service, and not about accumulating goods. We get what we need, but we're not here to hoard. And as you go through each of the 10 Commandments, they have an order. You go from that. Next is your relationship about taking responsibility. We're not to misuse the name of God, which is, we're here in understanding, which is the meaning of the tree of life. We're here to create peace and responsibility for our actions and not blame one another. I mean, that's really the underlying principle there. And God knows how many wars were being fought in the name of God. Talk about taking or misusing the name. And then as we go through in our relationships, we talk about, okay, keep the Sabbath holy, which is mercy in the tree of life, but it's really about reflection and renewal and taking the time out to look at what we did the past week and have mercy on yourself. Well, I didn't do it all well this week, but it's a do-over. Reflect, go inside, meditate, have special time with your family, and disconnect from all the noise, the media, the television, radio, phones, computers, and so you're now able to, have some perspective and honor your father and mother. It's strength or severity in the tree of life. What's really about balance, teaching, our own children. And what's the best way to honor your mother and father? By being good parents yourself and respecting our elders and recognizing that we couldn't be here without those who came before us. So, that gets you the first 5. Well, the second 5 are really all the things as a society we are to do. Do not kill, which is beauty in the tree of life. Well, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to be creative. We're supposed to nurture. Killing has to do with dreams and ideas, not just people. And I hope I'm not rambling too long. If you want me to keep going through, I'll finish the last 4. Do not commit adultery is victory. Well, the victory is really about honoring our commitments and having the courage to keep our promises to ourselves, not just other people. And, do not steal. It's really about justice and charity, and it's glory. It's what brings us the greatest joy on life, is when we give more than we get, when we're in that wheel of keeping everything flowing in the universe so that we're not hoarding. We're not damming a stream so that everything down from the stream dies off. And do not bear false witness against your neighbor really is the foundation. It's truth, it's integrity, it's about being honest to ourselves as well as everybody else. And then lastly, do not covet your neighbor's belongings. It's really about, you can't be in your own life enjoying contentment if you're worrying about what somebody else's journey is all about. And then the golden rule covers everything. It's really about intuition and our oneness and our love.
I love that. So it's not only just a guide to the 10 Commandments and the golden rule for modern times. It's really who most people are taught that there are 10 of them and they're very individual, right? And you have to remember them all. But you really show them as this beautiful process, right? It's a journey, right?
It's a journey. Absolutely. It's the when I say rules for the road, it's how you go through life and how you journey through life to be the best version of yourself in this lifetime.
Right. Regardless of religious affiliation in any way.
Absolutely. It's about it's about a universal. I mean, Jesus was about love. He was the first hippie. I mean, think about it. If he came back today and saw Christianity as a divisive tool, he'd say, wait a minute, I came back here the first time because the priests were crooked. Now my whole religion's and my message is being misused.
So the name of this is Denise Alexander Pyle. The name of the book is The Power of 10, A Guide to Living the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule in Modern Times. Denise, please tell everyone how they can find out more about you and how they can get your book. You can find me at www.denisealexanderpyle.com, and that has some blogs. It tells you about me. It tells you about the book. You're directed to where you can buy the book through Balboa Press, but you can find me on Amazon. And again, Power of 10 or my name. Actually, I think my name comes up better because Power of 10 has other books, even though it's not the one with the 0 in parentheses after. As the 10. And I have a personal, because I'm an attorney, they can also contact me at denise@dapylelaw.com, because that's where everything gets redirected anyway. And your website, once again, is denisealexanderpyle.com.
Pyle.com, correct.
Right. So denisealexanderpyle.com. The name of the book is The Power of 10, A Guide to Living the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule in Modern Times. Denise, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And I want to thank our audience for being with us. I am your host, Reverend Patricia Caginello, and you've been listening to Sacred Stories.